Hi book friends, welcome back to OMG Look at Her Books. My name is Gina and I post book related content such as book hauls and book reviews and unboxings. So if you like bookish content, would love to have you subscribe to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be doing a book review about a book that I cannot stop recommending enough to everyone, and it's a little controversial in my review, so I cannot wait to share it with you guys today. So let's get right into the review. The book that I'm going to be reviewing with you guys today is none other than Sanctuary of the Shadow by Aurora Asher, and I am so excited to chat about this book and review it because I know there's a lot of controversy behind this book, and the ratings on Goodreads are absolutely insane. I think it does not reflect the book. So before I get into the review, I wanted to show you my not one, not two, but my 3 copies of this book because I just loved it so much. So this is the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. Has the sprayed edges on it. So I have that edition. I also have the Bookish Box edition, so I do have a subscription for Bookish Box, and what's the other one? Fairy Loot, to have a couple book subscriptions. So this one has artwork in it. It has foiling. It has the reversible dust jacket. It's also signed by the author. Let me show you the back side. There is the artwork on the back side and the rest of the jacket. This is such a pretty edition. I love this one. And then of course I saw that, I believe it was Locked Library. It's Locked Library or Pagedwick. I can never remember. It's a UK based bookstore, but they had some signed books left. I'll leave it linked down below where I found it because they still have it in stock. I just got this in the mail. So this is another special edition. It also has sprayed edges on all 3 sides. And the most exciting part is that it is hand signed by the author. So super excited to have 3 copies of this book. If I love a book, I like to have more than 1 copy. That's definitely one of my bookish traits. You know, if I love it, I want multiple copies of it so that I can display them on my shelf. Before I get into the review, I wanted to just give a quick synopsis of this book. So this book, we follow Harrow. She is our main protagonist, our main female character, and her entire family and her entire clan was actually slaughtered in the beginning of the book. So now she is with this like magical, whimsical circus that she like travels with, and then all of a sudden this dark, broody, sexy male ends up being like captured, and he's like in a cage, and they're trying to like bring him on as like a new act in the circus kind of a thing. So she ends up deciding that like she's choosing him and she wants to rescue him. So she goes to rescue him, and the story kind of goes from there. I would definitely say it's more romantasy and more romance. So yes, there are some fantasy elements to it. I do think that the plot wasn't necessarily fleshed out with the world, but I think we'll see more of that, I want to say, in book 2. However, if you're okay with like mostly romance with just like a splash of fantasy like in your romance and like insta love, I definitely think you should check this one out. So now that we have a little bit of a synopsis, let's go right into my review. So, as I said, I absolutely loved this book. I left a huge review on my Goodreads account. I printed it out just to see like how long it was. It is a little over 2 pages long. That is how long my review is for this book. So I wanted to do a video and chat about it with someone because I need someone to talk to about this book. I rated it 5 stars. I literally could not put it down. I picked it up thinking I wasn't going to like it. I try not to let Goodreads sway my opinion because sometimes, you know, it'll have 2 or 3 stars and a lot of people didn't like it, and it will, you know, deter me from picking it up and reading it versus the ones that have the 5 stars and 4 stars and people can't stop talking about it. You know, I'll want to pick that one up sooner. I'm so glad I did not listen to all of the negative reviews on there. Sometimes they can be good, you know, if they say they don't like something, then I'll know that I'll like it. But anyways, at the beginning of my review, I even say get comfy and grab a snack because this is a long one. You can find my review on Goodreads if you want to read it. But I say in the beginning, this book reminded me why you can't always trust other readers' book ratings and sometimes just need to read it for yourself. I absolutely devoured this book, as in literally could not put it down for a second. This one had so many of my favorite tropes. The spice was fabulous, the pacing was spot on, and an important thing to note is that this book is written in third person. So I find myself enjoying third person more and more now. I used to typically only read first person books, so that's just something to note, and may deter you from reading it, or may even have the opposite effect and make you want to read it more. So I really enjoyed this book. I truly believe it just hasn't found its correct audience. So this is not an epic fantasy. Like, I would not describe this as epic fantasy at all. This is, however, a spicy romance with a splash of fantasy and some fantasy elements to it, in my opinion. So the main male character in this book, he has Major Rhysand vibes from A Court of Thorns and Roses. So if he's your book boyfriend too, because he's definitely one of mine, that's all I would need for me to, to convince me to read this book. So in general, I think you would like this if you like Toucher and You Die vibes. I'll burn the entire world down for you, like Anyone But You. Who Did This to You, which is another one of my favorite tropes. Fated Mates, Insta Love, Only One Bed, Forced Proximity, another one of my favorite tropes. And of course, an HEA, Happily Ever After. So now that is the end of the spoiler portion, the non-spoiler portion of my review. So now that I gave you guys a synopsis and I gave you an overall review of the book, I want to go into more depth and more detail about the certain things that I picked out from a lot of the negative reviews and giving my point of view and my perspective on them. So I tried to keep the spoilers to an absolute minimum. However, if you really don't like spoilers, I would recommend pausing the video now and coming back to it at a later date, because there are some minor spoilers that were necessary just to get some of my reasoning and explanations across, but I really did try to keep it to a minimum to try and convince you that you should pick up this book. So the first thing that a lot of the reviewers said is that they don't see the Avatar: The Last Airbender vibes. So I guess the author put that in her synopsis, that it has a little bit of Avatar: The Last Airbender vibes to it. Did we read the same book? That's my question to those that said, where was that? Because I picked up on it immediately, especially watching, the cartoon as a kid. There's a nation at war, her family is dead, her entire clan. She's the last of her kind. There are the 4 elemental queens, water, air, fire, and earth. So in my opinion, it was there while also maintaining its own separate story. So I did see the Avatar: The Last Airbender vibe. So that was point 1. The next thing a lot of readers complained about was that the book does more tell than show. When an author tells you what they're doing versus saying it and showing it. I do agree with this. However, I really enjoyed it in this instance, and I think it fit very well. So this book moved very quickly without stopping to describe every single little detail, which I know some people love, and it does work in a lot of instances. For example, Brandon Sanderson, his Mistborn series, which is one of my favorite high fantasy series. It was necessary to describe things. But this one, I think that it fit to do more tell than show. So there were no pacing issues for me. I couldn't put it down, and I really think that had a lot to do with the third person writing as well. I'll get to that point a little later on, but I think it really worked for this book. The next complaint that readers had was about the insta-love. So that's fine. It's totally fine if insta-love is not your jam, but I mean, don't rate a book 1 star just because you don't like that trope. I mean, that's just my opinion, because I eat up insta-love, especially you just need it sometimes. You know what I mean? Slow burn's great sometimes too, but sometimes you just, need a quick enemies to lovers insta-love book. So if you read Fated Mates or other Half to My Soul books or things like that, I hate to break it to you, but that's kind of insta-love. That they're gonna end up together. So I also thought the spice was fabulous, and we didn't have to wait super long for it. So that was another aspect of this book that I really liked, is that we got some spice early on. I want to say it was about the midway point. Sometimes you have to wait until the very end, especially with series. So I liked that. Another thing that readers complained about was that this one. Readers complained that the main male character is childish and speaks very little. Okay, I have a lot to say about this one. My first reaction to this was like, duh, duh, to the speaking too little part. So did we read the same book? Because the main male character, he is reborn at one point and he is new. So not speaking too much could literally also end up hurting him. Like, without spoiling too much, we do find out that if he speaks, there's a reason why he doesn't speak a lot. So I can understand if you didn't like how the main male character is very like short and he's abrupt with his words, but this was clearly intentional in my opinion. I think his short responses was like a fabulous way for this author to show, you know, while writing in the third person and not hearing his internal thoughts. Because again, it's third POV, so you're not hearing his inner monologue. So it shows that he was reborn, he was innocent, and he got his new body, you know, and explained rather further that his words are binding and that it can be dangerous for him. You know, so I thought that the author did a fabulous job with that, and that was a good way that she did the tell versus show, but really showed it. So not sure if that made any sense to you, but I don't know. I didn't think he was childish at all. I think he was like showing his character, you know, that he was reborn and new, and it really added to that, in my opinion. So another major complaint that the reader said was about the abrupt change in POVs and the point of views. So, little background, know this about me. I really despise multiple POVs in books. So I tend to read a lot of romance, and they're usually first person single POV or they're dual POV, you know, with the female and male character. So when you start adding 3, 4, 5 plus point of views, sometimes I get a little confused. However, I think this book did a fantastic job of this, and I think really that the author seamlessly changed the point of views, you know, especially considering it's written in the third person. So the author literally says the name of the character that we're currently following in the first line every time that it switches a character. It's never in a random sentence, like it's always a new chapter or a separate paragraph. And I even put proof. That's the lawyer in me. I even put like proof and receipts in my review of 3 different instances with the characters. So for one line starts, Wraith flew to the top of the tallest tower. Wraith, that's the character we're currently following. Another paragraph started, you have to take me to him. Harrow begged. Harrow, that's the character we're following. And then a third example with another character. Malachi was so worried about Malachi. I mean, to me, I thought it was very straightforward and easy to follow. I even did the audiobook too. I followed along with it, and I had no issues getting confused about which character we were following and who we were with. So I had no issues with that. Next complaint. Readers complained about the lack of world building. That was a really big one. So yes, I do agree to a certain extent that the world building could have been fleshed out a whole lot more, but it just wasn't that type of book, you know? It's not a high fantasy, it's not an epic fantasy, you know? I could easily follow the storyline, I can gather what was going on and, you know, pick up the bits and pieces. And that being said, I mean, maybe you just don't like, you know, romance books that don't have a lot of plot in it, and that's fine. For me, a romance book, the smut, the spice, relationship, that's the plot for me. So that's enough for me, you know what I mean? The fantasy is just like added an extra and helps with like the escapism, in my opinion. You know, the fantasy just like adds more to the romance, which I think is the main plot. So I loved it. Sometimes you just want to read a smexy romance, you know, with a splash of fantasy in it for the escapism without trying to figure out, you know, which continent or which land or which town we're in, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's hard to keep track of all those things. So if that's not your type of book, yes, you're not going to love that. But again, if you like romance with a splash of fantasy, like I do, you'll love it. So that concludes all of the points that I saw in all of the Goodreads reviews that they were saying why they did not like the book or their complaints. Those are like the main ones that I kept seeing over and over. So that's just my take and my opinion on them and me trying to convince you to read this book. And overall, I really love this book. I just think that it needs to find its right readers and its right audience. So if you've ever thought about picking up this book but just didn't because of all the negative reviews, I urge you to reconsider because I absolutely love this one. It was a fun, quick read. The next book I'm hoping is going to be her sister's story, which I need now, so I literally cannot wait for that one to come out. So if you made it to the end of this video, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave some comments down below if you've read this book or you want to read this book. I mean, do you typically pick up books that have bad reviews on Goodreads? Do you not care about the Goodreads and just read it for yourself? You know, so let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys again so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day or night, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. Do you mind?